Laban, man. I don't know how to introduce you. You're a great man. Me and you, we've been going back and forth for a long, long time. And thank you for what you do. And it was nice to see you again last year in One Voice Consortium, just having that conversation that we have to continue helping our community and make it better. So you do a lot of things. You do immigration, business, man, estate. Nobody has an excuse not to talk to you in planning for the future. So welcome, sir. Amazing
Thank you.
attorney, amazing. Go ahead. It's yours now, man.
No, thank you. I was going to let you keep going because he was feeling really
No,
good.
no, I'll take an hour.
But thank you. Thank you, Brother Kamna, for the invite. I also want to thank Kemen, Kenyan Men Empowerment Network, which is hosting through you. I also want to appreciate the work that you do, especially with the diaspora community here in the United States and elsewhere. So thank you for the invite. As you mentioned, my name is Laban Opande. I'm an attorney trained and practicing here in the US. I live in Texas, where my main office is. But I do have clients both nationally here in the US as well as worldwide. Part of my work is portfolio is in immigration law. And I'm sure there has been a lot of questions, a lot of interest that has come, excuse me, in the recent days pursuant to our new president and new administration and some of the policies or plans that he has as he runs through his term. And I think that's what has elicited the interest and the invite. So I'm greatly honored to be here. So thank you very much. Before I start, let me also say that nothing that is said in here constitutes legal advice, nor does it create an attorney-client relationship between myself and you, Kemen, and you, Come Now, and all the invites here. I really would advise that if you have a question, please seek legal counsel. There are many lawyers in town, both immigrant lawyers who are also doing immigration law, but any lawyer, any competent lawyer whom you may want to address any legal issue. And of course, here we're talking about immigration because the subject is narrowed down to immigration. There are several Kenyan American lawyers here in America. We have actually an organization called the Kenya U.S. Bar Association, which I am the president. We have almost 200 attorneys. They're all over the country. Just look out for them, to them, and I'm sure you'll be able to find them. So that's what I wanted to do as far as the introduction is concerned. Brother Kamna had asked me to kind of talk about what we need to do as an immigrant family here in the United States regarding just being prepared and being informed. I don't want to believe that this is something that is just time specific. I think this is something we all should do, continue to do, no matter what day or where we are. Because we have to be appraised what the law is, what the politics is, what's going on around us, because then that's how we're able to engage and be part of the community and the society that we live in. So I said to say that one of the things that you need to do is just be informed. You're seeking to be here today. You're wanting to be a part of this is exactly part of that. Get information, be informed about what's going on. As you all know, in the recent past, there has been a lot of misinformation that sometimes brings a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic, a lot of heartache. And sometimes you don't know what is true, what is not. But I can tell you that if you just keep enough, and again, it's also a very thin line because there's a lot of news out there, especially now with social media and the like, that goes on. I find myself actually on news or on social media more than I've ever been in the past, and it just keeps going. It's almost an addiction. And sometimes, so you have to know what information are you consuming and what is not. There are some information that you would know right away that this just cannot be. And so you don't have to worry about it. But if it's something that touches what your life is, then yes, please go seek legal counsel. That is the best. If you get ill, what you do is you go seek medication. You seek a doctor, they give you a diagnosis, they tell you what's wrong, and then you're able to get the right medication and get to heal. So the other thing is to be engaged, remain engaged. Some of us, we live here as immigrants. We live as though we have some kind of a cohabitation relationship. It's as if we're here just temporarily. It's not our home. We're just here passing by. We don't want to get married to this country. We don't want to be a part of this country. Yet many of us will expend the productive part of our lives in building this country. Our children are here. Our grandchildren will be here. And so we built a new generation of immigrants. So we have to embrace, we have to, be part of the community, attend, school board meetings, attend HOA meetings, attend your local civic engagement. So you get to know what's happening, what is affecting you. Many of us, we don't do that. We just do not get engaged with our communities that we live in, yet we are paying taxes in those communities. We are providing tons of money in construction of schools and roads and bridges and so forth. And so it's important that we know. Let us know our leaders, our local leaders, where we are. Who is your senator? Who is your congressperson? Who is your local state senators, council member, the mayor, and all those people? We have to be informed. We have to be engaged with them, and let us also let them know that we're here, because sometimes we come and live in the shadows of others and so forth. Now, I say that to say that is if you have legal paperwork, if you have legal documentation, and you can be able to participate in civic engagement, especially in elections, be a part of the process. If you are not, please do not try to vote or participate in something that only citizens are allowed to do, because that is a criminal act. It is illegal, and you're not supposed to do it. So it's on you. You're the one who knows what your status is and what therefore you can do. My urge is that if you are a citizen, please make every effort to be a part of this community. The other thing I wanted to talk about is maintaining documentation. And again, these are things that I'm saying that it does not matter whether it's because we've been awoken by the new administration or not. Maintain proper documentation. Your passport, just make sure your passport is valid. You don't have to wait until it expires before you start looking for your new passport, because a passport is an emergency document that you can need at any one time. So therefore, even if it's to either whether it's to travel or whether it's to identify yourself or whatever the case may be, it's important that you keep your passport or your ID current. Same thing if you're a legal permanent resident. Keep your green card current. There's a lot of people who get their green card and they forget. Obviously, if you've been adjudicated as a legal permanent resident, then that becomes your status. Even when it has expired, you do not stop being a permanent resident. However, if there's an emergency, and I've seen some cases where someone travels out of the country, they forgot when the card was expiring, and now the airline cannot bring them back because the airline can only carry you if your green card is valid. So please, there's some things that we on ourselves should know and should be on top of it in terms of maintaining current, the work permit, your ID. Keep documents for your family members, especially for your minor children. Keep their documents in a safe place, in readiness for anything. And I'm not trying to cause fear or anything. I'm just saying this is whether there was anything going on or nothing going on. These are things that I think we all should be doing on a regular basis. Now, when it comes to your legal status, you know what your legal status is. My advice is seek legal counsel. Sometimes people listen to street lawyers. They listen to people in the street. They say, oh, I did this and this is what happened. Or, I did that, it didn't work. I don't think you can do it. Well, you haven't consulted an attorney who is licensed and who is practicing in that area of law to really advise you whether you can do what you're hoping to do. I do have clients who come to see me. They are coming. Actually, some of them, interestingly, they come with a solution. They're coming already with a solution. And they have not even made a diagnosis. They don't even have a proper diagnosis. It's like going to the doctor and saying, doctor, I have tuberculosis. Well, how do you know? You have not been checked out. There's no diagnosis. So let the doctor check you out and then prescribe for you. Well, I think what you have is this, and I think the medication for it or the route, the avenue to cure this is this way. So, so don't, seek proper legal counsel when you're needing to know exactly what avenue you could have. And if you go and talk to and open up, you have to tell your lawyer exactly what it is, what your situation is. You're not trying to embellish or make it look good or be ashamed or whatever the case may be. No, just state in the same manner that you go and see a doctor and you tell them exactly how you're feeling so that they can know exactly how to treat you. So in the same way, I suggest and I advise that when you go seek counsel, you have to tell them exactly what your situation is. And from what you explain, the lawyer would be able to know what to prescribe. Sometimes there could be several avenues that can help you, but he'll be able or she will be able to know this is the best based on your circumstance. This is, I think, the best avenue that you can find. In some instances, you can pursue 2, 3 avenues at the same time. Many times, of course, what prohibits people is the funding. That you need a lot of money, legal fees, filing fees to do some of your paperwork. But there's some scenarios where you can find you have several, but the lawyer can advise you this is the quickest, this is the safest, this is the cheapest way to go, or most affordable, I should say, to go and get what you want. So therefore, seek consult a lawyer to tell you what is the best way to go. The other thing I want to advise my people is stay out of trouble. A lot of times, most clients, not most, but many clients that I have, they have issues that they cause themselves. They did not, keep to themselves. They started acting in criminal activities. They started engaging in criminal behavior. And criminal behavior, and we all are guilty of it, but there are some which just go beyond, all right? And some of them come because of either peer pressure or because, and I'm talking about things like drunk driving. You go there, you're staying with your friends, you start drinking, and then you're driving home, you don't realize you're drunk, you're pulled over, your papers are not straight. Now the problems begin. And you start saying, well, I wish I shouldn't have gone there. So therefore, if you have these issues, because you know what your status is, why are you exposing yourself? Why are you putting yourself out there in harm's way and potentially starting a lengthy deportation proceeding, which is going to cost you a lot of headache and a lot of money. So stay out of trouble. Stop engaging in activities that can cause you to fall in the line of either law enforcement or immigration and so forth. And as you know, most of the time, the moment you're arrested for criminal activity, the next thing is going to be an ICE hold. ICE is going to put a hold for you, so you can't, even if you bail out of your criminal jail, then ICE is there holding you because they're saying, well, you did a criminal act and you're here illegally, so now you have to go. So just be informed, be aware about what you're doing and where you are. Choose your friends wisely. Don't hang out with friends. If you know you have friends who have bad behavior, then just stay away from them. Go to church. I'm sure there are good people in church. Go in other social activities that would have the right kind of people or friends that will not put you in trouble. The next thing I would advise is have a plan. We should all have a plan. Many times when you go to look for a job, the interviewer is going to ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or where do you think you'll be in 10 years? So I think that philosophy, we should apply it as well when we're here. So if you come here as an immigrant on whatever visa and you've decided You want to change your visa, you want to stay here, you're going to get your papers and so forth. Have a plan. And then have contingent plans if plan A does not work. Don't just come and leave aimlessly. You're just there. You're not doing anything. You don't have no plan. You're just existing. And then, years come. And I can tell you, I mean, I've lived in this country for so long. And when somebody reminds me how long I've lived here for 30 years. It's going to be 30 years next year. I can't believe that it has been that long. I feel it was like yesterday, but that's how long and I've been here. And so that's how quickly time flies because of, we're busy running up and down, life is happening and so forth. So don't be without a plan, have a plan. Then this plan ought to be also a little bit more detailed. If you know your status, if you know your status, um, and your papers are not straight, what is your plan if in the event something happens to you? If you get detained or if you get arrested and you have children at home, what happens to those children? And in this country, as soon as that something happens to you, in terms of you being detained, CPS comes in, and then that is another whole process of trying to get the children back and so forth. So have a plan. Be nice to your relatives, be nice to your cousins and your neighbors, and build a strong a social network that they'll be there for you if something happens. And have that person whom you believe is responsible that you can actually assign and say, hey, if something happens to me, would you be able to help me? Would you be able to help me do X, Y, Z? Even in the unlikely event, for example, you get into criminal trouble, always have a friend that you can call. Of course, your lawyer is a good friend to have first, but have a friend who will be able to make things happen for you. There may be a need someone to post a bond or bail for you from criminal jail. So you need that person who you can then have some funds also, have some funds saved so that it's easy for you to access those funds and have someone bail you out. And then you can start fighting your case, whatever that case may be. So be prepared. Have those things on the side. These are things that we all need to do, whether it's a new administration that is coming or it's the old administration. This is something, so long as you know yourself and you know you're here as an immigrant family or a person, this is something that we should be having and be aware of all the time. I did talk about the criminal trouble. Some of the things that I know that have been happening in our community is domestic violence. And I know, life can be stressful. We went through COVID. COVID was a pandemic that nobody had, thought about and would ever happen. But from there was a lot of, family troubles that began and so forth. Now, you have to exercise the most restraint when you're dealing with your family members, your spouses, your children, because some of the people who have come to me is because they were having quarrels in their house. They're having spousal disputes. They're having disputes with their teenage children and so forth. And then the law enforcement comes in, and then it starts taking a totally different path. So stay away from trouble. That's what I'm saying. As one of the pointers that I can give and what you need to know to stay afloat in terms of being an immigrant. Now, let me go back to, I think, what really generated this interest and what we're here. And also kind of try to inform, at least as far as what I know, in terms of what the law says. So we have elections every 4 years, and a new president is sworn in thereafter. The president has a manifesto that they promised that this is what I'll do when I get to the office. Many times, the president comes in, the way to start implementing whatever they promised is through what they call the executive orders. Now, An executive order is really an instruction, really mainly to implement a certain policy. All right. But what you all ought to know, it is, I don't want to say it's not a law. It's a law, but it's the weakest of the laws. As you all know, we have the supreme law, which is the Constitution of the United States. Then we have statutes, which are made by Congress. And really, Congress is the only body in this country, and I'm sure many countries, that is that has the authority to make laws. So then there are the statutes. And then we have case law, which usually is interpretations of the statutes or the Constitution. And this case law is derived from the Supreme Court, okay, because it's the apex, it's the highest court in the land. So we have that kind of hierarchy. You know, we have the Constitution, we have the statute or acts of Congress, and then we have case laws which interpret these two laws. They interpret the statutes and they interpret, you know, the Constitution. Then on the lower end, we have now, for example, the executive orders, which really is more of a policy pointer, instruction to the executive branch, because they're the ones running the government. This is how I want my policies to be implemented. So every president does those. Every president who has come has made these executive orders. But we also know most of them get challenged. Of course, the ones we see are those which are very prominent because of how the interest they generate from the public and the media, you know, engaging in such. And of course, now the things that happen after that in terms of you know, how families get affected and people start getting rounded up and whatever the case is. So what I'm trying to say is that a new president comes in and we get caught up with executive orders. I want to assure you that the law has not changed. The immigration law has not changed. It's the same law that was there in Joe Biden's administration. It's the same law that was there in President Obama's administration. It was there in Bush and all this. And it was there even during President Trump's first term. It's the same law. However, then we have these executive orders, which really are more to help implement policy, implement whatever plan, manifesto that the president or whoever was campaigning for presidency was promising the people. All right. So many of them do get challenged, and you all know some of them have been challenged. Some of them have remained even after being challenged. Some of them have been withdrawn. Even President Trump recently, that day after one day, he withdrew or revoked an executive order. And that's how easy they are. However, the only thing is that the president does not need to consult Congress to do it because purely the purpose for them is to implement policy. And so therefore, you know, if he deems fit, this is a way to implement my policy, then he uses it. But we all know that they all get challenged. And even now, there are already those which have been, he has issued, several of them have been challenged. Some of them, there have been a pause to not to implement and so forth. So why I'm saying this is because we don't want to be caught up in living in constant fear that you can't leave the house, you can't live your life, you can't, you know, really do anything. You're constantly worried. And the import of that is then it starts leading to other problems, social problems and health problems, because now you start, you know, feeling like the world is crashing on you and everything is closing in on you and you have no way to breathe and so forth. And then you can easily go into other health issues like depression or substance abuse and so forth. So please, you know, and I'm not saying don't do anything, but I'm saying don't be such, you know, consumers of, and, you know, the worst thing that has happened, you know, I don't know if it's a worst or good thing, is social media. There are people who they live on social media and they create content. They create content for likes. They create content for excuse me, to have a following. And of course, if you're somebody who is of influence, you have a number of following, you say one thing, which sometimes is misinformation. It goes like bushfire, and now everybody is saying, but I saw it on social media, but I seen it. Well, I'm just trying to tell that the law has not changed. Don't live like you're living in a I don't know in some pressure. You have something sitting on you. Live your life, but then do what you need to do. If you know you need to get your paper straight, do it. Start consulting a lawyer. Go see a lawyer. Tell them this is what I have, because that law that many of us moved in with in this country is the same law that is there now. Nothing has changed. If you still follow it, even now, I'm still having clients who come and they're still doing the petitions that we were doing last year and we're doing 5 years ago. So nothing has changed. So I just want to, I want to tell you that if you need to do something, then don't do it. Just don't sit there and live on hope. You know, hope is usually never a strategy. Sorry, someone. Okay. So hope, I was gonna say hope is never a strategy. You gotta be active, you gotta do something and get yourself going, in whichever direction you want to go. So I wanted to touch on that because of it's perhaps a reason why, and I've been getting calls and I've been getting invitations similar to this to go and speak about these issues with the new administration. And I think it's just how, each president wants to run their term. I don't think this is going to be the end of it. There's still going to be many more coming. But but even the executive orders, I can tell you, is that generally they ought to conform or apply with the law. You cannot issue an executive order that is negative to what the law is or what the Constitution is. And that's why they very quickly get challenged and they're thrown out, so stricken out. So I wanted to just touch on that because I know there are a lot of concerns. The other thing I wanted to mention about is, of course, and which goes into what the new administration is doing about sanctuary cities. And there's a lot of, and I don't want to get into the politics of that, but we know that there are some cities who define themselves or call themselves as sanctuary cities, whereby they're basically saying we shall not enforce federal law because immigration is a federal law, because that is not our mandate. We shall be enforcing our own local laws and state laws. Let the federal government, deal. So, and then of course the federal government, for example, this administration says, no, if we give you funding, if you get any kind of money, federal funding to your budget, then you should be subservient to us. You should do what we're asking you to do, and so forth. So there are those fights that are ongoing, but there are some fights, and there are some cities who have said, no, we shall not. We're not going to do anything about it. We already have our own problems here internally, and so forth. And so because of that, which I think really is more about politics, so you see highlights of, agents being sent to some of these cities to conduct raids or to, detain certain individuals and so forth and so on. Well, hopefully with time, we'll figure out where that settles down. Quite frankly, the one thing that I know also is some of these things require a lot of manpower in terms of the government does require a lot of manpower too. But anyway, I don't want to get into the politics of that because what I'm trying to say is that what are the chances that you're going to have all these officers going and rounding up all these people? But anyway, that's just a personal opinion. I want to just stick to what the law is. So, so anyway, even when you're in those sanctuary cities, if you live in any one of those, I think you still need to live by what the law says, at least in that state. Be responsible, stay out of trouble, be in the know, have your documents ready, or whatever. Don't be too comfortable and say, well, I'm in a sanctuary city, nothing is going to happen to me. You really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what may happen tomorrow. So, like I mentioned from the beginning, just live your life like you would have lived it, regardless of any change of administration. or a different president coming in. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know how much time I have, but I wanted to touch on just a few things. Hmm. I think that's what I want to say. I think I probably will just spare some time to sort of answer questions that may have. Again, I'll give the answers in a very general way because I don't want to be specific to an individual. But if you really, really believe you have an immigration issue concern, please seek legal counsel. I think
Right.
Kemen will share or I could share my contacts if you want to
Can you do
reach
it
out to
now?
me.
Can you do it now? And then I'm gonna stop live because I have questions also.
Yeah,
Once you
yeah.
share your number right now, I'm gonna stop live on YouTube immediately.
Absolutely. So you can go to our website. My website is www.opandelaw, OPANDELAW.com. And our office contacts are there. The email address is info at opandelaw.com. For those of you, some of you may have my cell phone number here. I usually don't mind giving it out. 713-446-6339. You can always reach out. I try to help as much as I can. Sometimes it's not easy to consult over the phone, especially if you're new and I don't know who you are, because I don't want to start a conversation with somebody that I don't know. So I usually want to schedule an appointment, send a Zoom, and then we have a conversation from there. But above all, please seek legal counsel. You can always reach out. I can refer you if you want a local lawyer who is in your area. I can always try and find one. But if not, you can just go online, just ask, interview them, and see what advice they give you. Someone was asking for my number again. It's 713-446-6339. That's my cell phone number. And I'm
Right.
easily found on text and WhatsApp as well. Thank
Perfect.
you.
All right. Cool. Cool, Tony. Before I go out of live, I have one question,
Sure.
and then I'll stop YouTube live. So, what is criminal and not criminal as per immigration?
Oh,
Like when they say, "Oh, criminal," they keep saying criminal, criminal.
yeah. So generally,
Unlawful, unlawful, unlawful. Lawful, unlawful. Okay, thank you.
okay. All right.
That's
So
it.
let
Yeah.
me try and just kind of explain. And that's a very good question. All right. Um, Immigration law follows what we call civil law regime. It does not follow criminal law regime. Okay, so in other words, if you violate immigration law, the law treats it as having broken a civil law, not a criminal law. All right. However, there are some acts which, if you do them within the confines of immigration law, they are actually criminal acts.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Let me give you an example. If you overstay, all right, you came here on a visa, visitor's visa, you were supposed to stay for 3 weeks, 6 months, however long, and you didn't leave. And now you've overstayed. So you've broken immigration law, which is a civil law, is not a criminal law. So you having overstayed is not a criminal law. All right. It's a civil law. All right. When you get arrested, and I don't want to say really arrested, when you get picked up by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they detain you. They don't send you to jail. They send you to a detention center. There's a big difference. When you're detained, in so many words, you're free, but you're not free. All right. So there are some things that would ordinarily kick in if it was an arrest, a criminal arrest, in terms of your due process. If you get arrested for a criminal offense, you have to be read, your Miranda rights, you have to be produced before a judge within a certain time. They have to, either charge you or indict you or whatever the case. I mean, things kick in immediately. If you get picked up by ICE or immigration enforcement, those things really don't apply per se. So
Mm-hmm.
you can get someone in a detention center for 2 months. They haven't gone to see a judge. Why? Because you are free, but you're not free. Okay. All right. So that's a civil case in terms of immigration law. All right. Now, what about you're caught bringing in aliens from across the border? All right. That is a criminal act that you will be charged federally and maybe even on state level, depending on where you're caught, with a criminal offense. So even though it's dealing with an immigration issue, the charge is actually a criminal offense. And there are many examples I can give, but all you need to understand is generally immigration is a civil law regime. It's not a criminal law regime. Okay. Now, when you get picked up by ICE, it feels like you're a criminal. When you get detained in a detention center, you feel like you're in jail. When you get being deported, you feel like you're a criminal. But really, the law you violated is a civil law violation that you did. I hope that kind of
Perfect.
helped.
All right. So I'm gonna go out of YouTube, and then we can ask free questions. We have